Rob, 3.
Kristen,
Yes.
Happy New Year. Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year. Oh,
Hey, Pete.
Never
MP,
mind, I
Happy
got
New
it.
Year.
I was just about to text you, MP.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, for some
Everybody
reason
have
it
a
said
good
I had to
holiday?
end another meeting and then start this one. I
Okay.
don't know why.
I was like, oh, she's really busy.
Who is, oh, I need this up.
Everybody have a good holiday?
Yes, how about you?
Yeah, very nice.
Good. It was quiet. It was different.
Yeah, very different, very different. We usually have everybody here, 18, people here, grandkids and all of
Oh,
that.
wow.
We only had 5 or 6 of us. And those are the people that we, see every day almost.
Mhm.
Hey, Van,
Yeah,
before we get started, Exchange Club business,
yes.
is somebody come in to pick all those clippings up?
The,
From the
I'll
trees?
ask-
Nobody's come and gotten them.
No, but they picked up all the fencing and everything. I was down there.
Yeah, but none of the tree cuttings or anything, they're all sitting there still.
Okay, there's a meeting tomorrow night. I'll put out a memo after this meeting to Bennett Paul, the chairman of the committee, and we'll figure it out.
Okay,
We'll get it done.
I just don't want to get yelled at.
No, no, didn't you clean up? Didn't you help us last year? You helped us.
No, we cleaned up the first year and then last year was fine. And then
Okay.
now it's just sitting there again. So
Okay,
I don't know who was supposed to come and get it.
okay,
Thank you.
yep.
I was gonna email Charlie, but
Yeah, Charlie, is with the American Legion now. I mean, much more active in the American Legion than he is with the
the
exchange.
exchange.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty big deal over there.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey everyone. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, happy New Year. And it looks like we've got everyone. Shane's here, which is great. Bruce.
I got an echo on.
Pam, MP.
So do I.
That might-
I heard an echo.
That might be me. Hang
Everyone's got to
on.
go on mute. If you're not speaking, you got to go on mute.
Still got an echo, guys?
Yeah. Is that mine? Is it me or you?
So maybe, Kristen, can you, if everyone goes on mute, Vince, self on mute.
I was interested.
So Rob, you're on twice for some reason. That's better.
Okay. All right, sorry about that, guys.
Maybe try again, Rob.
Yeah, I'm trying again. Can you hear me or no?
It's all over the place.
All right, I'm sorry, guys. One second.
I feel like we're in the Twilight Zone.
So do I. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right, so I'm going to the forego video. I apologize. And we'll see if we can make this work. So we'll get started and call the meeting to order at 7:05. We just from an agenda standpoint, we'll approve minutes. Well, the public comments, Peggy has joined us this evening, so we'll give Peggy an opportunity during public comments just to kind of speak to us in general. I'll have a couple comments. We'll move on to election of officers. We'll go with chair, co-chair, and then if there's a nomination for secretary, we'll then vote on meeting dates. We'll have the director's report. For old business, we had really just to discuss what was going to be communicated to, based on the outcome of our last meeting. The new business is the fee schedule. So that's what we'll cover tonight. So with that said, at this time on the agenda is approval of the minutes. So if anyone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes, we'll take a second, then take any comments or discussion.
I actually did not see the minutes. Did they go out today?
Scott, were you able to get those out?
I don't remember seeing the minutes either.
Neither did I.
So, Kristen, was there any update on that as far
No,
as?
I sent them to Scott.
I thought you had sent them out to the commission, Kristen, my bad.
Oh, no, sorry. I can do that from now on if it's easier.
Yeah.
I think it would be best.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to forward those out, I don't know how lengthy they are. We can even get those out during the meeting and then see if there's any opportunity to review it. Otherwise, we'll have to do it at our next meeting. Okay.
Okay.
We will move on to public comments. Peggy, thank you for joining this evening. We'll give you an opportunity to just speak to the commission and it may set us up for some discussion throughout our meeting during old or new business. So Peggy, at this point, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's nice to see everybody. It's been a while. And I think it was in person, probably the last time I attended one of these meetings back in the spring. So I just wanted to come here today and provide an overview of the reorganization plan that we talked about at the Board of Selectmen meeting for Beach and Recreation. And just to give you a quick update, I've been in, pretty continual communication with Rob about some of the plans that the town has for the department. And actually, I'll share with you the slides. There's pretty similar to what we had at the, that's okay, at the Board of Selectmen meeting. So this will kind of give you an idea of what we are planning to do. Okay, I know I do this. This is all different now on here. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. So the town launched back in the early fall a early retirement program for employees, and of that program that that opportunity that we launched, there were 3 Beach and Rec eligible employees, and 2 did accept that. I'm assuming Scott has updated the commission on his intentions, which is to retire. That would go into effect July 1st. But Scott will also be staying with the town for another year on a part-time basis to assist with the transition. Obviously, he's been with the town for over 40 years, and there's an incredible amount of knowledge and background and just history and depth there that we want to continue to mine and leverage. And so we were grateful that he considered staying on an additional years on a part-time basis. And what happens a lot of times when these programs roll out is it gives, the town an opportunity, or any type of town government or business, to look at its organizational structure and to see if there are improvements that can be made. And I think when we went through this, and there was out of the entire program, there was actually, we had a number of other employees accept the package as well. So we've looked at it really across the board. We're looking at all different departments that will be impacted by the retirements that are going to be coming up on July 1st for the next fiscal year. And so we started looking at similarities and differences in different departments and skill sets. And I think the thinking after a lot of conversations was that there seemed to be a lot of sense putting beach and recreation together with senior services. There's a lot of similar skill sets that are involved, how things are interaction with the public. And there were a lot of benefits that could be achieved for the town by putting the two departments together. And this is actually similar to what other towns in the state, including Guilford, how their organizations are structured, rather than having two independent director level positions and what I kind of call silos, where you have senior services over here that's kind of tied to one building. And then you have beach and rec, which has a very expansive web of responsibilities in the town. And so the thought was to fold the two together and try to leverage that. Because the other thing I think we've seen is just the demographic changes that are happening today, where we have more active seniors. So there's kind of a blurring of lines between some of the activities and programming and facility use that Beach and Rec is offering versus what seniors now want. It's not just card games at Memorial Town Hall. It's, pickleball and senior basketball and a lot more active seniors. And I think seniors also want to see lots of different types of programming. And our senior services department has done a fantastic job, but it is, I would say, very focused on a very specific demographic of seniors. And so the idea here was to kind of leverage the strengths of both departments and try to find areas of shared strengths and skill sets and to combine them. And so, this was kind of thought through with a lot of internal discussions and also looking at other communities. And the idea would be that Austin Hall, who has actually been with the town for quite a long time, who has really built our senior services department since the senior center was opened, also worked under Scott at Beach and Rec department. And would be an ideal candidate to run the combined organization, the combined department. And so with that thinking, we kind of put together a preliminary organizational chart of how this would work. And I think this is really kind of, I call it phase one, because right now we're looking at, okay, let's get rid of the silos and put everything all under kind of one umbrella and restructure the department a little bit. And then I think phase two would really be thinking about more, is some of this stuff belong under beach and recreation? And we've had a lot of conversations, and I know building and grounds or the tree wardens. And sometimes I think a lot of what this department has done is because they do things so well and so quickly. I think Scott has been really good on jumping on things. He's inherited a lot of responsibilities within the department. So I think, we will go through phase one, which is just kind of creating the new organization structure, and does not involve a lot of new people or changes really. And then secondly would be to spend some time over the next 12 to 18 months working with, a task force to really look at other organizational issues and kind of address some other needs that we might need to do going forward. So this would be kind of phase one of the process, and this is how the budget's going to be reflected for next year. And so really kind of the big changes, instead of, two directors, we have one director. And then Heather Noblin will become kind of the assistant director for the combined departments. And then we're going to have below that 3 supervisor levels, and they're going to be primarily focused on, managing staff as they always have done, summer staff, as well as overseeing programming. So this is kind of conceptually, like, as I said, phase one. The other thing that's going to be changing is, Beach and Rec has has run the before and after school program. They created it, right? Scott, you and Barb Savaston had created the program. And I think one thing we really learned during the pandemic that, we were having to make all these short-term employment decisions. The town had a huge commitment to these temporary employees. And we kind of scratched our head and like, why are we doing this? Does this really make sense? There was a need there was a big need there, and Beach and Rec stepped in to fill that void many years ago. The question is now, does it make sense for the department to continue to run that kind of program? So we're also going to be looking at exploring options for that. One being possibly outsourcing it. And when I use outsourcing, a lot of communities in Connecticut use the YMCA is one group, or Big Brother and sister organizations. So they look at external organizations to come in and run those programs. And it's really good for the town because it takes that employment risk off. Because, having these temporary employees on a 9-month basis has become really, it is an employment obligation that we bear, and there's a significant cost to that. So we'll be reviewing options for the before and after school program. Barb is retiring. And so, and her position is pretty much paid for through the program revenues. So we're going to look at doing some sort of, I'm working with the school district on kind of next steps. And it may be that maybe at the end of the day, the decision is to stay with the model that we have. But I think we want to look at what other options are out there. So that is kind of a significant change in terms of a program thing that might be removed from the department. So this is kind of what, and I don't think the organization chart itself was actually presented at the Board of Selectmen meeting, but I think, as the commission members, it's important you understand kind of what the new department, the thoughts are behind it. And, to open up a dialogue about how we, improve and, just reinvent a little bit. And, the thought process now is to keep the department name the same. I think that there's a strong community association with Beach and Rec. But those are the types of things that I think that we would have a dialogue going on over the next 6 to 12 months. And we would talk about where do we locate the combined department. There's a lot of different things that we can think about how to do things differently. And also some of the capital project management things. Scott has a huge responsibility because not only is he running the department and overseeing all the facilities and the groundskeeping for them, he's also in charge of large capital projects, which are quite significant at times. So we're going to be looking at that whole process in town government, and is there a better way to manage that and not put that burden on department heads because they're pulled 10 different ways a lot of times. And so that's kind of like my quick show here. And I know Bruce is on here as well, and he's been participating. We've had a couple of executive session discussions at the board level on this. And then we talked publicly about this so that it's out there, that this is kind of the direction that we're moving. And, I just want to say too that, I've come to really appreciate what a great staff we have and a great team we have in town hall. And so I think that this is just a great opportunity to improve things even more and to address a lot of the concerns that the community has had. This summer was brutal. And I know you guys lived through the Beach Pass summer too, but this was really tough this year. And I have to give Scott and his team a huge amount of credit because of what we were dealing with COVID. I mean, who would have ever thought that we were going to have to head count how many people are on the beach and tell them they couldn't get on, right? Because there were too many people. Who would have thought we would have not allowed non-residents to enter or park? There was a lot of big issues that we had to deal with because of COVID. And I think despite all that, there was a great team of people that just kept things rolling. And generally, I think people were able to have a good summer in Madison, despite all the challenges that we encountered. But it was a lot of brainstorming, shifting gears, week to week and problem solving. And I think that's where we would continue to have that kind of approach and attitude as we move forward into the future, and hopefully just get some normalcy back. That's what I know I'm hoping for. So I hope that was helpful, and I'm happy to answer questions or talk a little bit more about it. I don't know if you want me to, wait till later in your meeting. Is this an agenda item for you, Rob, or is it?
I think it could become a new business item. I think it was more let you kind of share, the vision, where it was headed, what the
Yep.
current state is. I think, if there are questions, we should open it up, or if Bruce wants to add anything, and just have that discussion now with you here.
And I think what we can do also is, as this gets more refined and solidified, is come back, to the commission. Because I know this is kind of just dropping it on you at this meeting, but there's an opportunity for myself and to come back and talk more about some of the questions, and also for you to kind of follow up with us with your thoughts about your concerns with this and questions you might have, so I can answer those at another meeting.
Peggy, I had a quick question.
Yep.
How come it's being structured? Why are the two assistant directors not in parallel to each other, reporting to Austin, like an assistant director for recreation and an assistant director for senior services?
I think the thought was that we only needed one position for that. And it was just really more building up support below those positions. The idea was trying to not create a top-heavy organizational structure, but have more boots on the ground and more people actually out there in the community and working on programming. And so that's kind of what we're doing. We're streamlining at the top, but trying to put more resources down in the direct contact with the community.
What's the timing of all this, Peggy?
Technically, I guess officially the changeover would happen on July 1. But, Austin and Scott are going to be meeting regularly on a transition plan. And then Scott will be staying on for another year after that. The important part was to make sure that we have an easy summer. So it's not like, there's a handover. Scott will be actively involved this summer to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Peggy, just to follow up on MP's question, I'm not familiar with Heather Noblin. I'm just curious, what is her current position and what's her background? And
Heather's the assistant director in senior services.
okay.
And so, she's really done an amazing job with developing a lot of the programming there. She also is a municipal agent. And I think the thought process with that, this would be something that she would be able to step into and do a great job, is Austin's kind of number two.
Okay.
Any other questions, or Bruce, any comments?
Yeah, Vince is talking, but he's muted.
Vince, you're on mute.
All
There
right,
you go.
am I okay? So I was always amazed, after 2 years of being on the Beach and Rec Commission, of the number of things that Scott Erskine had to do. And I always asked the question, Scott, what's going to happen if you leave tomorrow? And he said, well, there are a lot of people that report to me that get a lot of my work, a lot of this work done. There's a lot of staff that he has. And I'm just wondering, how is that staff going to be staying where we're not going to miss any, have any bumps in the transition? And maybe,
I mean, no one is losing a position at the town through this.
They're not.
And I think that, will there be some bumps? Possibly, because there's going to be some changes. And could people choose to move on if they are comfortable with the changes? Possibly. I think that's going to happen with any kind of, process that you go through this. But one would hope that, we'll still have a lot of continuity. I will say that. I don't think there's going to be significant shifts, because really for most people, this is not going to have a big impact on them. It really isn't. I mean, it's, and ideally for the, I think the seniors are going to benefit more because there's going to be a little bit more of a seamless coordination between the more senior oriented, recreation programs and stuff. We were talking about how the senior center has a whole separate, programming, calendar management, registration process, and that all should just come under one, umbrella, I think, so that you're not having to go, oh, I got to go to the senior website because I want to sign up for the exercise class. But if I want to do the basketball, I got to go over here to Beach and Rec, so trying to pull that all under one thing. So then you just figure out what your interests are. And I think for them, they'll see some positives out of that. I think also it will create greater sharing of space rather than being like, this is for the senior center, or this is for Beach and Rec. It'll be more, what's the best location for programs? And kind of just create more continuity and sharing across the departments.
Is there,
Certainly glad to see the emphasis on the senior programs. Thank you.
Yeah.
is there a similar commission supporting senior services today?
The senior commission has been briefed by Austin. I haven't met with them yet, but they're familiar with it and seem supportive.
So, okay, so the plan would be that both commissions would remain intact as is and those would not be combined.
I mean, I think so, because the senior commission deals with a lot of very specific things. But maybe what we would do is have some sharing of, that's a great point. We haven't really talked about that because a lot of what the senior committee, it's not really about the department management, but it gets into a lot of other kinds of senior issues, So I think that's a great point, Shane. We haven't gotten to that stage yet about, because I think you could have on the Beach and Rec Commission people associated with seniors, but the senior commission, in my view, is very specialty oriented. But I think that's a fair point that we got to think about that.
We've already got that with Vince, so we're good. We're covered.
Yeah.
And I'm all alone, Peggy. I'm all alone.
No.
I need help.
Maybe we can get you another one, another
Please.
senior.
A pickleball player, a basketball player, that would be great.
I know. Well, some of us are approaching the senior level, but not quite. But this gets into what do you define as a senior?
Yeah, I don't think
and that's
so.
where
I got
I
a ways
think
to go.
Yeah. So, and I know a lot of people comment that the senior center is, oh, those are people who are 80 plus versus, everybody else is 60 plus. So, and that's where I think it's a blurring nowadays. People are really, don't want to be pigeonholed. They wanted just the opportunity to participate whenever they can participate. But I think, Shane, to your point, that's a great point. We have to think about that a little bit more. There's no intention of eliminating either of the commissions. We would keep the same structure, but we need to think about how they interact with each other.
Well, and you'd also have to look at I think town charter also has something to do with how certainly the Beach and Rec Commission is set up. So that would also have to come into account.
Yep. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I'd be happy to, if you want to just one-on-one talk more about it, if you have concerns you want to share offline, just shoot me an email and we can talk. And then I can come back at your next meeting as we kind of refine it a little bit more to lay out, a little bit more detailed, the timeline and all that.
I believe this is the way it was set up years ago. So I'm wondering how maybe some of those discussions and like even the commissions and stuff were set up back when the senior services was under Beach and Rec. I don't know, Scott probably might remember that.
It was.
Oh. So this isn't a new brilliant idea? No. Well, and I think also when they built
senior
the-
services was under Beach and Rec.
Yeah.
Prior to going to the depot, when that was created, and that's when it kind of broke loose from the Recreation Commission. They created a separate department. We tried to bring it back when the new building was built, and as you stated earlier, was kind of taxed, or I am taxed with everything that goes on. So I wasn't able to handle both the senior new building, getting that going, plus the department. My responsibilities were really driven to the recreation end, with the amount of people that we were serving with beach passes, boat racks, you name it, all the sports. It was kind of too much for me to handle, and I think we're going to be able to do it, but it's going to be trying as far as Austin goes, with not being under one roof. It was difficult for me to be in two places at the same time, and that's kind of where it looks like it's going to be. I think Austin and I were talking that he'd be probably a campus like 3 days out of the 5, and then 2 at the senior center, knowing that Heather can handle the senior center, so that'll help.
Mhm.
But the senior commission was created after the depot was created, and then they grew legs with the new building. So
So I think my only concern, and Peggy, I think this goes back to the idea of the different commissions. I think that obviously it can work. My biggest concern would be Austin serving 2 different commissions, and if depending on, for example, the capital investment plan or budget stuff, if it's, is he taking sort of direction from 2 different commissions that are recommending 2 different approaches to where we should be investing our money. I think that probably just puts him in a difficult situation, in terms of managing. Again, it's probably more around budget and priorities. But I think would be my only concern out of the gate, that I think, yourself and the first selectman should, just take into consideration as you continue to work through how this is going to be structured.
Yeah, and I think that at least the impression that I've had from Austin is the senior commission is not as involved necessarily. I mean, there's certainly, provide guidance. I mean, you guys have actually more authority, right, to set policies. And so that's something that we have to talk about, but I think it's an important point, and we haven't really gotten to that stage yet. So I will definitely focus on that and figure out how we manage that. The good thing is maybe, it's divide and conquer, considering Heather's expertise. Maybe it's going to be that she's going to be the one responsible for that commission, and he handles beach and rec or something. So, but we have to work all that through still.
So maybe, Scott, if there's a senior commission charter or some operating manual, maybe if we could take a look at that, that would be helpful just for us to understand. And Shane, that's a good point. I think it's a good segue. We can come back and have some discussion on this. Just any other questions or comments? I was going to go to the chair's report and then get into the director's report. Bruce, anything you want to add on the change?
No, I think Peggy did a good job covering it, and she mentioned the executive sessions. We did have a pretty vigorous discussion about the risks we were taking with this type of reorganization, and any reimagining like this. There are going to be some risks, but everybody involved on the staff end was really well prepared for the questions that the selectmen had regarding the management and the new structure. I think we recognize that it's not guaranteed, but we think we've done a pretty good job of putting forth an organizational structure that can work. And yeah, we don't have all the kinks worked out. I think it's going to make sense to keep the 2 commissions running, and have them in their own orbit with some touch points together. But and Peggy mentioned keeping the name the same, and I think that there's wisdom in keeping that beach and rec brand going. But as we talked about this, we really talked about it in in terms of a community services, delivering community services. So while we may talk publicly about Beach and Rec, we're really thinking about it operationally as community services.
And I think that that's something over the next, 6 to 12 months, trying to get community feedback. Would people want the name to change? Do we want a rebranding? I mean, that can be a discussion that your commission can also think through. Because I think, we all have our own anecdotal personal opinions, but, I don't know the general public's perception, to be honest. And then also the seniors, we want to be conscious that they don't feel like they're not being recognized as much now by not having it part of the name, and so we need to do a lot to make sure that to them, this is going to be an enhancement and a benefit and not detract from their importance in the combined group. So.
Great. Thanks for that guidance. So just real quickly, 2 updates. Number 1, I did speak with Ed Dowling this week and just had a really nice conversation with him. This came out of our discussion on the review of the beach season. Ed was really excited that we reached out. He is going to speak with the chief about next steps, about having a meeting. Ed mentioned it could be so much as even having a Beach and Rec Commission member that represents on the police commission, or at least seasonally. So maybe Ed will come and give us an update at the next meeting, but he's very open and was very happy that we reached out and see some opportunity for that collaboration. I think just the final piece, just some commentary on the changes. I don't think any of it is baked per se, simply in the sense that I think this commission here will have a lot to do with the shape. And I think Scott staying on board as part of the transition will be really helpful to make it successful. I think we've made a lot of progress as a commission where, we talk about budget, we talk about the individual progress that's being made. And I think it certainly has educated me, and we've discussed that it's been helpful to understand the behind the scenes. So I think that was timely. I think where there's opportunity for us is priority and CIP or also budget planning process. And I think it's good timing now as that will be developing and Scott will be here. But as Peggy has said, I think the commission, all of us, are going to have the ability to shape and support a successful creation and transition here. So I think that's going to be more work for us to do. And I think the communication we've done, the feedback and the surveys we've done, all of that, we have a lot at our disposal to really build on. So that's all I have.
I just have a question.
Sure.
The input of budget and CIP and shaping the new department seems to be above our purview as far as, advisory group on policy. We usually receive this information as, a courtesy, but we don't really, as a commission, have the power to shape the budget, as you just stated. So I'm a little uncertain as to how that is something that is on our list of things to do.
I think my words were there's more opportunity there. And I think that is.
Yeah, I'm curious in what way.
I think it's my personal belief that the commission should have insight, understanding of what are the priorities, how are priorities decided, and to be able to give feedback on that. And I think that's part of learning and understanding and being aligned with the larger town initiatives, with different departments, with Beach and Rec. I think it's about how do we, as a commission, serve the Beach and Rec department as an advisory group and help shape.
So that direction is informational to us, not as a action item of ours. Yeah.
I don't think it's an action item of ours. I think it's something that we can help influence and shape. I think we all have the same interest for the town. And I think the more information we have as a commission, the better we can make decisions and support the agenda of the town and the commission. So I think we're saying the same thing. I'm not looking to suggest that we make the decisions on CIP. There's a process for that. Coming into Beach and Rec MP 3 years ago, I didn't feel I had a lot of insight as to how we made decisions, and I've learned an awful lot from being on the commission. And I think it's about how do we support the department and the town. So I hope that provides some clarity.
I think it's also is helpful when you as a commission identify problems that, you know, that you think the town should be taking action on, you know, we need a new fence somewhere, or we need to fix the bathrooms at West
Right.
Wall, or we need those types of things, I think is helpful, because that helps us if you're getting a lot of feedback and feel that, you know, we're not investing or improving things that the, you know, people use a lot. You know, I think it's helpful for us to understand that, because you're kind of another set of eyes and ears on the ground as part of the community about where there's gaps and where things aren't getting taken care of necessarily. So I think that's helpful.
Right. It just, that seems a little different to me than actually putting our hands in the budget process. You know what I mean? Because that's, you know,
Yeah, let me
an
be
employee's job.
more well, let me be more direct. I think when priorities are made for beach and recreation, we should understand what those priorities are, and we should have some influence on supporting those priorities.
Right.
Or even driving what is a priority. And unless we understand what those priorities are, how those decisions are made, where that impacts the budget, it's going to be hard to do that. And I don't,
Right. But
and
that,
this is not to say, go ahead.
that only goes to a certain point in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, we'll move on to election of officers. So the first nomination will be for chair. We would look for a nomination for chair. We would look for a second. We would ask if there's any discussion. We would call a vote, and then we'll move to co-chair, and then we'll move to secretary. So if assuming someone is nominated for secretary. So at this point, chair will
Is that me or is everyone else hearing
No,
Rob?
that's everyone else. I think it's got the same
Rob,
vote.
you're,
for.
I'm losing Rob.
yeah, Rob, are you back?
I am. It says it's unstable.
Yeah, we're losing you in and out.
You got me?
Yeah.
It's a little bit in and out, but we seem to have you right this second.
Okay. I don't know if you have me. I don't see that.
Yeah,
it's showing
Well,
up.
we can't lose you, Rob, because I'm going to nominate you as the chairman for the next year for the Beach and Rec Commission. I think you've done an outstanding job of navigating us through some 2 years or last year of some tough waters, and I would like to nominate you as chairman of the commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? So with no discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Am I allowed to? So Pam, are you going to vote or?
Pam
you're on
did.
mute?
I said aye.
Okay. MP, do you have a vote?
Aye.
Okay. So we will move to nominating for a co-chair.
I will nominate MP as co-chair.
I'll second that. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. And with regard to secretary, even with having Kristen, or whether it's Kristen or someone else to take minutes, if there is anyone that's interested in the role of secretary that would support and ensure that that role is executed. I just didn't know if anyone has any interest in that or any questions on that role.
Well,
I'm not sure if we talked about this before. Are we required to seat somebody in that office just because it's defined, or not. I'm not, honestly, I'm not sure myself.
I thought Scott said last year when we had this discussion that we weren't required to. But
Okay, that's just, I wanted
Scott, can
to
you confirm that?
check my memory.
Yeah, if the secretary is not taking the minutes, it's basically a check and balance. But I think with everybody reading the minutes and everything else, I don't think it's really necessary.
Well,
to
may
have
I,
a secretary.
may I add that after serving as honorary secretary last year, I would like on behalf of the commission to thank Kristen for an outstanding job of the minutes and, making some sense out of the chaos that we have, organized chaos that we have every commission meeting. We get a lot done. And I want to say thank you on behalf of the commission. So I say thank you.
You did a great job, Vince.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I would also like to add, just in closing, that I think that we should try to make an attempt this term, this year, to get the minutes, a lot sooner than and I know it's been difficult last year, a lot sooner than we did last year. At least, within a week after we have our meeting.
Well, my understanding, and when I was taking the minutes, I was under a lot of pressure to have them submitted within 7 days because
That's
of
correct.
Information Act requirements. And I was just wondering that maybe, has it been that because we're recording these meetings and that maybe the recordings are available, that we haven't been subject to the same requirements? It's just been kind of a mystery to me, how we do or do not meet the requirements, FOIA requirements.
Well, we should be meeting within the 7 days, that requirement. And I think if Kristen is taking the minutes, providing we get those, if maybe the secretary's role isn't to take the minutes, but to ensure they get in on 7 days and such.
Well, but I would get these emails, even if I was maybe a few hours late submitting, I would get these rather stern emails. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And I guess so the fact that it's been a little more relaxed, I guess I was just curious.
Kristen, are you getting
Where
emails?
that's supposed to be.
It's an interesting point because of the fact that we are recording things now, which we weren't. So I don't have that's an interesting thing that probably needs to be checked with, Nancy's office, and Kristen can kind of maybe look into that because
what happens is for the 7 days, that just is for our office. That has to be in our office within 7 days. If the committee gets it within 7 days, great, but the requirements is to just have it in the town clerk's office within that 7-day period from the time the meeting took place. Unless it's a special meeting, then it's 7 business days. So that's when you have a little bit longer. But that's basically the requirements.
That was not my reading of the requirements when they were passed on to me. So, I think it would be nice to just clarify.
Yeah, as far as I know, unless something has changed in the FOI requirements, that's still the requirements.
Okay.
So is anyone volunteering to be the secretary without taking minutes? I see Pam shaking her head no, so okay.
Do we
All right,
need
so
it?
we will not. Technically, I don't believe we need it. It was more of a balance of roles, but
I think we're okay with just the chair and the vice chair, Rob.
okay. All right. All right, next.
As a side note, Kristen did email those minutes, so if we could approve them at the end of the meeting if we have time, if everybody's comfortable with that. They're in your email now.
Great, thanks, MP. Well, thank you all for getting through that agenda item. We'll move to the next agenda item, which is looking at the voting on the meeting dates. Scott has sent this out, so we have these set. You'll notice I did mention in a note to you that the plan is to pick up in person. We'll actually have to play that by ear and understand what the guidance is on that. So at this
Yeah.
time, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes, a second to discuss them, and in discussion, we would talk about any dates or possible changes or any conflicts.
Are we doing the
Meetings.
meeting
Shane.
dates? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And I put in for the, the first 4 meetings of this year is Zooms. I don't know if we're gonna extend further or not, but
Hey, Scott, I received 2 separate PDFs from you with regards to the schedule. Are they the same or are they
I
different?
couldn't remember if I sent them out.
I mean, they have 2 different PDF numbers, but if they're the same, then I just wasn't sure if there was.
Yeah, no, I was looking in my sent and I couldn't find
Okay.
it, so that's why I sent everything again.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So we'd be looking for a motion to approve those meeting dates in a second, and then we can have discussion if there's any changes that are requested.
I move to approve the calendar as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Pam. Any discussion, question, or concerns on those dates?
Thank you for checking when election day is. Whoever did that, Scott.
Had to look.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for putting that together, Scott. If there's no discussion or questions, we'll call to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's everyone. Great. Thank you all. We'll move on to the director's report. Scott has a couple updates for us, and then we'll use this also for Q&A regarding anything, regarding any projects, timelines, budget, and other updates that he has. So Scott, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks. As far as department goes, we're still virtual, staggered shifts, and staff is coming in, and we can't be all in the office at the same time, but we're doing that until the end of January still, and it's going to be reevaluated by the EOC. Whether that'll continue further, it really depends upon infection rates and what have you, relative to allowing public in the building and whatnot. We have just posted, it was posted today on the town website for seasonal employment applications. So hopefully kids will start putting in their applications. We've received a few calls already. Kids are home on break from college, so we may catch some before they go back, so we can kind of get a framework ready for this summer. Everybody is working remotely within department. We really can't do much programming at all due to spacing requirements. The town gym is a vaccination location, so that is offline for at least what have we been told, it's about 6 months. So it will not be available for programs. Once we get into warmer weather, obviously we'll be doing programs outside if they're allowed in larger groups. Right now, anything can't go above 4 people, and that is after January 19th, because all sports were suspended. So we're continuing to look at different ideas. We did do the drive-in movies, which were very successful. We did the drive-in concert for the Christmas season, and we are looking at doing the drive-in movies on a more regular basis, and we'll be doing them in-house to save costs. There's only a few pieces of equipment that we'll need to purchase, mainly the FM modulator, so we can get the sound out to the cars, but we're zeroing in on which one we want to get. for the distance that we'll need for the parking lots, but they seem to be well received. It's a novel idea. The one that we did have, my daughter came down with her 2 boys and her husband, and they, believe it or not, had never been to a drive-in. So it's coming back around. I think Southington Drive-In kind of missed the boat by not opening this year, but they'll probably be open this summer. But we're working on that. We'll be using our show, the concert trailer. We do have a screen that will be going up on the canopy. And so it'll be as big, if not bigger, than what we were showing the movies on. So the only cost will be is if the movies that we show are licensed, where we would have to pay a licensing fee. So we're moving forward with that for future programs, as well as the concerts. But we're looking at keeping them at Salt Meadow because it seems to be a perfect location for them. Surf Club kind of gets a little bit too busy, and trying to close the lot off so we can organize parking is rather difficult. It's easier closing Salt Meadow and saying, okay, we're opening the gates at 5:30 for everybody to come in, which worked out well. Other than that, we're departmentally, the grounds crew is busy repairing picnic tables. We're going to be building the boat racks that we indicated at last meeting, and repairing the racks. So those will be all done, as well as doing repairs to equipment, getting that stuff all ready for the spring. The winter has been, knock on woods, nice so far. We've only had the one big one that created a big project for us, as we have taken on the library grounds. So it's a big undertaking where we'll handle it in a rotational basis with the downtown area, but then we have to come back and do the major cleanup of the parking lot. It's a very tight parking lot, so it takes a little bit to get it all cleared out. But thankfully, it's only been that one big storm.
Connie,
So
how do you handle those prioritizing that? Do you clear the downtown areas first and then go to like
no,
the
we actually have, I have one man on the vent track, which is the machine that we bought for the downtown. He handles, let's see, the sidewalk at Middle Beach along the water. He does that. He does Memorial Town Hall, across to the youth services, in front of Academy, up Academy Street, Senior Center, goes from there to the ambulance garage, then he goes over the railroad tracks by the Hearth, and he does Tuxas Walkway and Wall Street, the sidewalks in front of the library, across the street, and goes from Monroe Building, that sidewalk that goes all the way back to Stop and Shop. He does that. And that's just one guy. And he also does also does the sidewalk going over Horse Pond train tracks. He does that bridge. And then we have another sidewalk machine, which is bigger, but that person is at town campus doing all of that, salting, clearing all the snow from the police department, all the other parking lots, and the learning center. So, I mean, those two guys are really busy, as well as as well as the other crews going around and doing, like Doug and another guy are south of Route 1 doing all the beach routes, as well as the other guys are tandem with Highway Department doing cul-de-sacs and other streets up north throughout town. We have our own routes to help the Highway Department.
So Scott, just to add some context to Peggy's comments up front, and this is for another discussion around how we need to learn, educate, and support. But as of right now, are there 4 groups that plow in Madison? There's the state, which has Route 1. There's Public Works. There's Beach and Rec. Do facilities do their own plowing or sidewalks? Do they do any snow removal?
High school subcontract, or the school system subcontracts out to a private service, as well as their custodial staff. The outside services basically do the inroads and the parking lots, and the custodial staff does the sidewalks at the schools.
And Beach and Rec picked up the library when? That new this year, as in the last snowstorm?
New this year, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But that's about it under departmental updates. We're going around and making repairs. In a couple of storms, we've lost shingles. We lost shingles on the gazebo. They're corner caps, so we'll be taking care of that, and making other minor repairs. We're working on, I have a contract out to redo the end zone fencing at Strong, as well as the backstops at Strong, because they're all bowed out from balls going against them, as well as Nelson Field backstop has to be retied. So those are going to be taken care of prior to the spring.
Just to double back on the vaccination at the town gym, have we communicated that to residents? Should we? Is there a thought the department has on making people aware that that's going to be closed for at least 6 months?
I think that would fall into probably Peggy's weekly report, along with something coming from Trent. Joseph?
Yeah, and I think it's unclear how long the commitment's going to be, because the whole plan is being formulated right now for like the next phase for vaccinations, which is 1B. But important point. And the other thing, we haven't really, Scott, have you sent out any kind of communication about a suspension of programs?
No, we have not.
Okay. So I think that's something, because normally we try to be a little ahead and just let people know what our timeline is in terms of suspension of programs. With the governor's rollback to 2.1 and then all the restrictions on sports, we're just kind of staying with where we are. So I don't envision that changing for a while, given.
Right. We had told everybody that everything was suspended until the 19th at least of January. So
Okay. Well, and so maybe as we're approaching that, we just need to send out something new, just
right.
That we're really tied to what phase the governor is going to be in the I don't even know what it's called anymore. The phase of the it used to be the reopening plan, but I'm like, it's now the reclosing plan. So, but yeah, that's a good point though, that we maybe need to do some new communications and also just review the programming that we normally start in like March, because I know you have different cycles of programming, and maybe talk about that.
Okay.
So can I ask a question? Just to be clear here, so the gym is going to be closed for the next 6 months, is that correct?
Well, I think it's not going to be right now. It is being used exclusively for the vaccination clinic, which is only
Right.
1 day a week. Okay. And we can't have it open anyways because we're not running programming. So I think to say that it's going to be shut for 6 weeks and is probably, or 6 months is maybe not the best thing to say. I think it's going to be really tied to how the vaccination plan is going to roll out and when we're going to need it. Because we were just talking that we might need to use the school facility because the town gym is limited. Right now you can control it. We're not having, 500 people show up. So if phase 1B or 1C of the vaccination plan rollout includes much more mass vaccination that the town is actually going to be administering, and we don't even know that yet. They're trying to work all this out still. Then we might have to move to a different facility. So I think it just has to be more kind of the plan right now is we're using that for our vaccination thing and for at least probably the end of February. I can't envision anything different until then, but 6 months would be not, I wouldn't necessarily want to use that term with the public.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's just that Vince, we can't have programs and sanitize, and turn it around that fast
I understand.
to do other things. So, and it's a lot of right now. It's a lot of setup inside the gym. There's vaccination spots, as well as after you have the vaccine, you have to sit for 15 minutes to see if there's an adverse reaction. So there's a kind of a holding tank after people get the vaccine before they can leave the building. So lengthy process.
Any other questions for Scott about anything, projects? Okay.
Okay.
How are our subcommittees doing? I know Salt Meadow hasn't met. Bauer and Rockland.
Rockland's been the only one that has met.
Yeah.
Bauer met, I believe, once, but they've been having some issues as well.
Yeah.
Getting everybody together.
Yeah.
But
The well is going to be repaired this winter, right, Scott?
Excuse me?
The well at Bauer?
Yeah, that's along with the racks and the tables. That's, yep.
Scott, just one quick question. Is the bike trails at the Rockland closed now?
Yes. Yeah. People have to go onto the town website and go onto the single tracks of Rockland. And there's actually a key on the right-hand side, and it shows whether trails are open or closed. I can send you the link. I know Gail.
Right. I'm just
called, and I had emailed Jason, and he was, as a teacher, he was kind of staying away from school emails. So he didn't get back to me until the other day. But I can send you the link, but it's out under the single tracks of Rockland site.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. I mean, I've got grandkids that use that a lot, so that's great.
Yeah, it's those will be open intermittently. It depends upon the freezing, thawing. Because if it's mud, it's going to really wreck the single track or the pump track. So
Scott, I got a question about hiking up there. This question about plowing isn't about cycling, but is that on the list of place that lot to be plowed at all? If someone wants to go in and hike and they can get their car off the road, or is that?
We didn't the big storm. We did not plow the Route 79 lot because that's not really it's a trailhead, but mainly for the single tracks. If one was going to hike, you'd go up to Renee's Way or the Pisgah Road coming in from Durham. But that would be a last thing we plow.
Sure.
Priority is the roads. As far as the budget report, I've been working on the budget. The operational budget has been submitted. And I'll get that out to you now that it's been finalized. We do have a workshop with the Board of Selectmen. I believe it's Zoom, right, Bruce? It's a Zoom meeting?
Yes.
Okay, on the 21st, and our time period is at 7:15 PM. But I can make sure that Lauren sends you all the link if you wanted to join in. I think we have, some departments have longer, and looking at the time clock, I think we're at 20 minutes, but that usually doesn't stand too fast. Usually it goes longer, so don't know when we'll be on, but our scheduled time is 7:15, so,
I'd like the link, Scott.
okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could send that out, that would be great.
sure.
One thing I wouldn't just want to mention, and Bruce knows that, last year we had a big discussion about, do we need to have full staffing at all the gates and lifeguards 7 days a week. And I think the Board of Selectmen struggle because the cost has gone up quite significantly, obviously, for hiring lifeguards. And so we kind of came up with a compromise proposal of just having things fully staffed 5 days a week. And so, but because of all the craziness this summer and the fact that everything was used 7 days a week heavily, we ended up adding back that staffing in the budget, or not adding it in the budget, but just basically adding it back. And we managed to cover it, I think, through some savings elsewhere, but we might still need some help at the end of this year when we close things out. This year's budget, I know I personally, and our board will review this together, feel that we do need to continue with that 7-day model. I think there's just an expectation in the community. And so this is going to have to be a request again through the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. And so I think if you have strong views about that, it would be welcome for you to share them with the Board of Selectmen. Because, to me, and I think last year you guys did recommend that, right? So, if there's any thought, I don't know if you want to do a formal recommendation or at least share them with the Board of Selectmen, but I think to have that additional support again, I just, now having lived through this summer, and knowing that we really did need it. Now, hopefully this next year is not going to be as crazy as this COVID year. But the reality is just the consistency of the staffing, and just I think residents are just going to have that expectation now. And I think it would be hard to go back to that 5-day-a-week model that we had proposed last year. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. And Bruce, I don't know
Peggy,
if
something we've talked about is we should make the assumptions that we start the upcoming season where we ended the past one. And then if restrictions get lifted, we can, ease off as the season goes along. But if we plan for less, I think, we'll get in trouble if, this doesn't end when we hope it will,
Yeah, no, I know. And I think that we kind of learned that lesson just generally too last, and I was an advocate for trying it, thinking, okay, do we really need to have people there Monday and Tuesday? Who goes, no one goes to the beach those days.
When it was modeled off the state's model.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. And this, you're right. I mean, I think this next summer, even if vaccines get rolled out, you're still going to have people resistance to travel, and they're probably still going to have a lot of staycations, right?
Yeah,
And people using, and I don't know what the summer camps are going to be like this summer, if they're going to be offering summer camps. So then you got all the kids here still. So that is going to be probably the way the budgeting process is, that it has to be like an additional request because it's above what was approved last year. But I just wanted to flag that. I'm guessing that there'll be a lot of support for it, but it's always helpful to know that the commission is supportive as well.
Thank you.
Anything else for Scott? Okay. Thank you, Scott. So That's a good segue to old business. The old business topic really was at our postmortem of last year's beach season, we collected some really good insights. And I think Vince had suggested, how do we get this information out to the community? One, and then the question was, what do we serve up to the Board of Selectmen to say, these were our key learnings and these are some of our recommendations. I quickly put together a draft just as an example of something that we could do. And thanks everyone for their feedback. MP, thank you very much for your detailed feedback. So I guess really the question is this a format we want to use? We don't have to use it. We could, do we need to be thinking about what we're serving up to the Board of Selectmen other than just a rate increase, if at all? Do we want to give them some of the insights that we found? Is that the place where we can make a recommendation for lifeguards? Or to your point, MP, we'd like to start the way we finished. So I just wanted to have some brief discussion or answer any questions. Should we plan to communicate our summary in some way to the community?
That was my
And that
one
would be
question
it.
that I didn't include in my edits is, what is the target audience? Is it just the Board of Selectmen for this document, or?
I think it,
Yeah.
I think it could go on the, website. As a PDF.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
I had the same thought when I saw it, that it looks like so almost like a newsletter.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
to put it on as a PDF that could be printed out, or whether there would just be maybe copies at the Beach and Rec office, or I don't know if we want to get into printing.
Well,
it.
we're not letting the public in, so.
That's true, right, for now. But I guess in the future, I
Yeah.
thought this was a really
In
nice
a perfect world, yes.
format it. But I
Yeah.
think
I don't think the design was to print it out. I think it's, how do you give an infographic to the Board of Selectmen and give them kind of the high points? And I think it also might be enough for the public. I don't know that they need more or less, but I'd be interested in what you guys thought.
I think you'd have to,
oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Pam.
One other thought that I had was, are we doing a follow-up survey? And would this be an appropriate topic for a follow-up survey?
Or at least to ask for feedback and give them a venue to do that. That's a great idea.
Well, based upon the last survey we did, communication was the number, I think it was the number 2 and number 3, if you will, bone of contention or areas we could work on in terms of communicating to the public about, what's going on with Beach and Rec and just a general communication. I think anytime you can communicate with the public, you're that much further ahead.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great piece, and I think I'd love to see it go to the public. This is what we've done. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. Nothing wrong with it in my mind. So that'd be my vote.
And
Okay.
in regards
Shane, you
to
had
the survey, we did promise to continue that, so we should continue that in some form in the near future.
The survey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, MP. I think it, and I thought it's interesting. I've been thinking about that. But the only thing I would suggest is that we make, whatever that normal means, is getting back to some normalcy in a beach season and in the public getting back to the normal lives. And then we can, talk about, what do you think the way things are going? Right now, we're in, at the judge,
Right.
rough beach.
Right, it does complicate.
Right.
But it
What do we
certainly
measure?
would influence the questions that we're even able to ask.
Right.
Because we can't say, how did you like the programs last spring? Because,
Right.
those are on
What
hold.
did you think of the beach?
So-
The beach pass
Yeah.
system?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I would defer to a year out or so to do that. Once we get back to.
Shane, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just think that, I think the general concept is good. I think if we're providing, I think the content would be slightly different for the Board of Selectmen than it would be for the public. And we've got stuff in here around, I don't know why we'd include budget stuff in here. We're just opening ourselves up to greater questions and stuff like around beach sticker sales and boat rentals and that stuff. Like those are things that I think would be good for the Board of Selectmen to see. Even the stuff we start talking about, like incidents, reported incidents. I think if we wanted to include this and post this someplace for the public, on the website or wherever else, I would probably just maybe have two versions that are relatively close. I mean, most, 80% of the content maybe is the same, but there might be some slightly different messaging.
Yeah, those two items that you bumped on, Shane, I also was going to ask for caution around, at least because those numbers don't tell the whole story out of context. Like you said, those expense and revenue numbers out of context don't really make sense compared to the general fund picture that we're getting familiar with, right, from looking at it so often. And you're right, I don't think general public would get that without the other larger context. And the incident reports, that just doesn't tell the full story in a way, without regard to choosing your target audience very carefully for those two things. I agree.
So, I mean, Rob, I guess and I apologize, I didn't have a lot of time to go through and look at the details of it. I mean, I can provide you with specific feedback, like regarding the content and stuff outside of this forum, if that's probably a better use of time.
Well, I think the question for the group is, my takeaway from our last meeting was, how do we give this to the Board of Selectmen? And then looking at it was like, well, the public, I think Vince had said the public could probably benefit from some of the information we discussed. I do agree with what everyone is saying. We need to give the Board of Selectmen a why behind the what and the recommendations, and we do owe the public an update. So I think from my purview, I think it's really up for this group to say, this is what I like about it, this is what should be in, this is what shouldn't. And I think the commission start with that template, add to it, edit it, and then you guys can, it's not mine, it's for us to say, let's put something out.
So my initial feedback is right now, like your 1, 2, 3, we're mixing 2021 and 2020 and 2021 together. And I think what we probably want to do is give a snapshot at what 2020 looked like. Certainly I would add something in here. One, we launched the new island system, lifeguards returned. We had a pandemic, right? We managed through the department managed through a pandemic and still provided, a safe environment for people to use the beach. And I think, and then we start getting into 2021. Okay, then we're increasing our boat storage for next year. There's fee discussion for next year. And here's some of the other, if we have other feedback from, the stop, start, continue in terms of where we want to go in 2021. I think, giving the looking back and then the looking forward, I think is a great idea. I like that structure.
Okay. Yeah, I think we just need to be able to have everyone add what they want or take out what they want. I think MP did a nice job of, had a critical eye, struck a couple things. MP, if you felt comfortable to send your version out to the group, I think that would be a good place to start and get feedback. And then, I don't know how you guys want to do it. I would suggest that 1 or 2 people say, you'll take it and edit it the way you want, and then say, this is what we feel comfortable with.
Not that I want to give you work, Rob, but I think it would be good for there to be a chairman's, like an opening paragraph or 2 from you about the last year in terms of the things around the department, the commission, in terms of your, sort of speaking for all of us, but in terms of what your thoughts are that you'd want, what messages would you want to deliver to the Board of Selectmen and then to to our constituents, to all the Madison residents.
Yeah, that was what I put forth, but that's why I wanted to get feedback. I mean, I don't necessarily, that's why I wanted to get some feedback. So what I can do is take some of MP's recommendations and pull some stuff out And I think Shane, you've got a good outline there. I do think the feedback on, and I really struggled with how much of the budget, you're trying to send someone a message that you don't make money running Beach and Rec. You're operating within an allocated budget. So I don't think we need to put the dollars out there. People might try and figure it out. What I can do is work on that and send it out to the group, and you guys can, with MP's feedback and any other feedback, and see if that's ready for us at least to give to the Board of Selectmen. We'll get some feedback from them, and then we'll see what you guys are okay with getting out to the residents via the Beach and Rec website.
And just something like the incidents, if we want to include that, I think, I think that's, especially for the Board of Selectmen, I think that's a good, so 24 I think what would be more relevant there is, and Scott might know this off the top of his head, is 24 a lot, or is that some reduction from last year in terms of documented incidents that we could say, like 24 documented, which is a 50% reduction from the previous year, so that we have some context as
Yeah, we can get that.
I don't know whether is 24 a lot. Seems a little to me compared to past years, but
Well, the trick is there's a certain level it has to reach before it even gets to be a documented incident. And so if the staff is constantly handling incidents, that are maybe just below that threshold, and
Gotcha.
those don't get counted per se. So that's where that statistic gets a little foggy.
gotcha.
Yeah, the incident reports are basically where things escalate.
Yeah.
And we feel that it needs to be documented. The little disagreements, people not understanding things, those aren't necessarily documented as we're trying to guide them, which was a fair amount this summer. People not understanding why we were closing the beach, because we were counting heads and the space, and you came down and it's high tide now and the beach is gone. So everything got crunched, so we closed it, and people were understanding after we explained it why we were doing what we were doing. So, but that wouldn't have been a written incident. It's only when the people get really argumentative and start pushing it that we end up documenting it in case there's retaliation that's required from the police department.
And also when they were issuing traffic tickets, right? When they were issuing tickets on site, that counted in an incident report. So
Correct.
Those numbers are different from those years.
Right.
And Shane, Scott had provided us, it was a pretty lengthy Excel file with a lot of documentation and details. And I think the spirit of creating a document, I was even trying to get it to one page, like how do we do that infographic that just summarizes the key points? So I think if what I'm hearing is there's alignment that we should give a summary to the Board of Selectmen, and a lot of the content that's in there can stay. We'll edit some of it. And we do owe to the community. And, Shane, I hear what you're saying, just, a few very broad words that can represent the commission. And then we'll work on that. What I would ask is if you guys could take the time, MP put some time into it, and I did get it back from Pam, but if you have input, let me know, and I'll make sure that I craft that in there and make sure you guys get a look at that before anything is served up. So thanks for the feedback, and don't hesitate to reach out or call me, or, if you guys want to chat on that. And I think the other key takeaway is if we can link it to some survey, or we don't have a survey because that takes a while to get up and running with questions. Maybe if we give people the ability to give us feedback and remind them of the website, if we're going to put something up there, just to make sure they see we're asking for feedback while we're delivering information.
Rob,
Okay,
Rob, could I just interrupt just real quickly, quick question, because you have on here proposed fees for 2021. Have you guys actually met and this is kind of this thing you came up with, or is this kind of
That's on the new business. We did
Okay.
discuss what the way it's worked in the past is we deferred to the director of the department to make their recommendations and inform us why they're the recommendations. So tonight we're going to talk about that
Okay.
and just get people's opinions on that. But those are not approved or ready to be forwarded to you.
Okay. Because I have some, when we get to that agenda item, I just have some thoughts based on the issues that we saw this summer about fee structure. So, and how to mitigate some problems. So I'm happy to share
Okay.
those with you as you talk about it.
So we'll do that. We're going to move into new business because the goal tonight was to approve a fee structure. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve a fee structure. We'd look for a second, and then we would have discussion. And then in that discussion, we would either have an amendment or we would call a vote on that. The fee structure was submitted by Scott. It's in the document that was sent out. I don't know if we can share that, or Scott, if you can share that fee structure, just so we can look at it for the discussion. So with that said, Scott, are you able to share that, or are you with us, Scott?
I haven't done that. Let's see. I hit share screen.
There you go. There you go.
I didn't do that. I have no idea.
Did Kristen do that? Yeah, Shane did that. Thank you, Shane.
Shane, thanks.
You're welcome.
So we could entertain a motion to approve the fee schedule as proposed, and then with amendments or in a second, and we go into the discussion on that. And we would have some discussion around these fees, why they are what they are, what people's positions are, and Peggy has some thoughts and ideas around some fee structuring schedule.
So the way this came out on the email was that there was beach stickers and gym passes on one document. We're going to separate these two?
We had beach stickers, gym
Right.
passes, and then down below gym passes was boats
Catamarans, day sails, right.
and
Well,
mooring
boats and
posts.
kayak are up there, right? Are they? I had them listed as kayak and boat, Scott. Does that
Yeah.
cover everything or no? Okay.
Kayak boats.
So Vince, I think it's
the
about
only one that you don't have is
Senior gym
the
pass.
mooring posts.
Um,
And
Are
then
you looking to make a change to that or no?
I had as far as mooring posts, I was recommending we go up from 225 to 250 a boat.
Okay.
And non-resident is
Boat.
not on the chart that was emailed.
Right. So just
Yeah, I did. I didn't touch the weekly rates or the daily rates. These were
Okay.
only the seasonal.
okay, so just to be clear, that the adult gym pass on that line, after that line came a line called senior gym passes, which were, which had a number of $20 and then an increase to $40. We're going to double.
Mhm.
And then under the youth, under that gym pass, there was a $5 fee currently, and it went to $15. It was tripled.
Correct.
You can tell where I'm going on this, I think, and how badly I feel about it, or how passionately I feel about it. So that's what we're not going to vote on that. Is that part?
Well,
Are we looking at different documents?
It almost
Yeah,
looks
yes.
like it, Shane.
yeah. Can you pull up yours, Scott? Is that the one you want to use? That might be better.
I'll try.
Is
By
that,
the way,
I mean, I'm just asking a question, Scott. Is that,
that was a partial of the document. I just got to figure out how to get to it.
and I don't mean to throw a monkey in the, it's getting later, I guess. I don't mean to be disruptive, but we already approved in the November meeting the boat racks and the pricing on that.
Yeah.
It was
Right,
approved
that's
in
what's
the
there.
minutes of that meeting, and then it was going to go to the Board of Selectmen for
But
their,
it has to be all in one document, that's all.
Is that-
I didn't want to go to the Board of Selectmen saying this is what we want to do for the boats, and then go back to at another meeting and talk about beach fees.
Okay,
That's all.
okay, and as I said, don't want to be disruptive, but so what do we do about the November that Shane proposed?
Those fees are in on the boats.
Okay,
That's
Yeah,
what we,
and
that's what
Vince,
we
you're
had
right,
talked
yeah.
about.
And
The
they're
only-
approved, but
Only one that I changed was the mooring posts, because we didn't discuss that.
right, okay,
And I think $250 for a mooring is very reasonable.
Okay.
I'm having difficulties here, guys. I've never done
do you want to
this
send it
before.
via email, Scott? If you can just, can you send it via email? And then one of us can share it.
You should have it, actually.
I did send it out in the packet.
Okay,
It was
Great.
in the material that you sent recently.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in OWA. I'm not really on my, I am not in my system. So I really can't get to it,
I'm looking.
but it was in the packet that I sent out.
right.
It was, I think it was the third page of the document. It was the
Yep.
agenda, the meeting schedule, and then the fees.
Hold on, I got it. Is that it?
Yep.
Yes, yep. So the beach stickers we hadn't talked about, but I was throwing that at everybody, because again, I wanted to try to make this one document to go to the Board of Selectmen. And it's subject to whatever you guys think. I was just throwing a dart at it, to try to increase, but not go crazy. And Peggy may have a different idea.
Well, yeah, because I thought, I don't know how much discussion you've had about this, but I mean, but maybe just to step back for a second. Last year, the Board of Selectmen had quite an active discussion about fees.
Yep.
And there was across a unanimous, I think, view that we really needed to increase fees. And that was because the cost of lifeguards and staffing has increased dramatically over the last 10 years because of the increase in the minimum wage. And yet there had been basically no real reflection of that in terms of the fees. So all the costs of the care, of the facilities and everything. So we felt like there needed to be some sort of adjustment and moving things up. And so we had looked at, and actually, well, I don't want to mess Scott up, but I have a slide that I think is quite helpful that, if you recall, there was that beach presentation about, what the plans were going to be for the summer that I did. And we actually looked at how many passes were sold. And surprisingly, I think this really surprised us, is that 38%, and I don't know how it shook out this last year, but 38% of passes that are beach passes that are sold to seniors at $10 a pass. And then, if you look at the other breakdown, I have a pie chart that shows all this. But so that's where, there was this kind of like, our lowest pass price is by far our largest category of pass sales. And so, that was kind of eye-opening, I think, to the Board of Selectmen when we talked about this. And so, so I think that, I think there is, last year we said, well, because of all the kind of tumultuous activity the previous summer, we didn't want to surprise the public and do anything dramatic. And so we kept the fee structure the same. One could make the same argument again this year, but I think because of just how crazy everything is. But the reality is that our cost structure just keeps going up, and our rates, it's costing us a lot to fully staff the beaches. And so I'm not sure, Bruce can weigh in with his personal opinions. I don't know where the board is going to think about it this year. I do think it's warranted having some sort of increase. So there's just the overall pricing of the passes. But then the other thought I just wanted to share with you is that this whole conundrum of non-residents, right? And trying to, this summer we had to deal with very limited parking capacity. And then we were also limiting who could actually be on the beach, right? So that just heightened the public resistance to non-residents using our beach, right? Because it was a limited resource that you had a lot of people having a demand for. And what we found is that there were these windows of time when Hammonasset would close that all of a sudden we'd just get flooded and it would take up all the parking spots. So I was trying to think, is there a way to do a structure where we're not discouraging? Because on days that are slow, typically in the summer, we don't have a problem, right? We don't really have a problem with non-residents using the beaches. It's just those windows of time that whether it's holidays or really super busy weekends, and we're probably going to still see a lot of that this summer with Hammonasset reaching some sort of capacity level. So is there a way to use the non-resident pass rather than issue a daily pass, trying to make it where it has to be purchased in advance? Because we're trying to use costs as the deterrent, but the reality is it's not, right? If you've driven an hour and you from, north of Hartford and you want to go to the beach and you show up at Hammonasset and you can't get in, the first thing that comes up on your GPS is East Wharf, and you're going to pay whatever you want to pay. You just get your van is loaded with your kids. You want a day at the beach, and raising it another $10 or whatever, or $20 is not going to discourage people. So I'm just trying to think of a way to make it more that, do you have to purchase the day passes or a weekly pass online in advance only, that they can't be purchased on site? Things like that to deter where we're still welcoming to people, and people who want to come to Madison for the day, they plan to come to Madison for the day, rather than us being the afterthought because they can't get into Hammonasset. So I just want to put that out there, because I don't think the pricing is really going to be the way to control non-resident demand. I think it's going to be more trying to make people want to come to our beaches because they want to be in Madison, not because they want to, find a beach anywhere. And ours just happens to be the next one closest to Hammonasset. So that's my thought on that. And I don't know what the right way to do it is. And we obviously have to be very sensitive to legal considerations. The other point is East Wharf. Because of those very limited parking, is it worth trying to revisit again? And I never had an extensive conversation with our town council about limiting that specific beach to residents only. The parking to residents only. I know this was talked about before last year. I'm willing to explore that again, only because it's such a tight, once again, this is the one where we had probably the biggest issue this summer because of the proximity to Hammonasset and the fact that it's in a neighborhood and it has very few parking spaces. So is there a strategy around East Wharf that we could think of to, just mitigate problems that we encountered this summer? So
I think it would have to be east and west, though, Peggy, because East Wharf has 22 spots without going into the 2-hour parking areas.
Right, but I guess I'm looking at it as West Wharf at least is close to the surf club, right?
True, true.
And I'm just looking at as East Wharf is kind of in a neighborhood,
Yep.
and it's the first thing that pops up. If you're getting turned away from Hammonasset, that's the first point of destination, and that's what we
Right.
found with traffic
Yep.
and everything. So
I mean,
I'm just
your thought about the, buying the passes in advance. I think that's done in other communities where they only sell, and Linda can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's certain communities that they only sell a certain number of non-resident passes per day.
and they sell those on site
No, they sell them in advance.
in advance. Okay, because that's yeah, and I think limiting it and to a certain percentage of the parking capacity and then having to buy them in advance, even if it's online, but which we can do now through some sort of receipt, that they would have.
Yep.
I think that would help a lot. It just, because I think that's when residents get angry that, within 20 minutes, boom, the surf club's filled, right? Because of something that happened because of Hammonasset. So, but we also want to allow for people outside the community to use our beaches. And I think it's just trying to distribute it more so it doesn't crowd out our own residents either.
Right. Yep.
So that's are my thoughts on beach passes.
Well, I guess there's two discussions here, and one is around the current fees that are in front of us here, which right now this list doesn't include the non-resident stuff. And then I think, Peggy, to your point, there's a further discussion around how we want to handle in 2021 the non-resident beach passes. And I think, at least from my perspective, I mean, I'd like to hear from town council in terms of what our constraints are. If it's access to the beach versus parking, if those are considered two separate things, then legally, then that gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of how we go about. I know at East Wharf last year, there was a ton of people driving down, pulling their van up, dropping the family off with all of their beach stuff, then driving downtown, parking downtown, and then the adult, the parent would walk to East Wharf and spend the day there, right? And then just reverse it at the end of the day. I don't think we can prevent that other than managing the parking downtown, which I know Scott was addressing last year. But, again, if there aren't legal restrictions from saying we're not preventing access to the beach, we're just preventing you can't park here. That's all.
I mean,
I don't know the legal answer to that.
Yeah, and I think that the legal rules, we have to assume are going to be what they used to be, not what we had this summer. Because under the summer, because of social distancing, and we were able to limit people, right, because of that. But if COVID is not, if we're not under executive orders and we don't have that flexibility, I think we have to assume that we can't stop people from walking in. And so that's why we put in some parking restrictions, and and it was kind of ironic because we had people complaining they don't want people parking in front of their house to walk to East Wharf Beach, but then when we put up a no parking sign in front of their house, then they didn't like the no parking sign. So it was kind of like a no-win situation. But I think I think we can really brainstorm a lot with town council. I just, about different strategies. But I think we have to assume, unless we're under really strict capacity limitations at the beaches, we're not going to be able to stop walk-ins. We're going to have to do parking strategies like we did this summer to prevent that. So I don't think we can sell like walk-in passes versus parking passes. And other towns were actually doing reservation systems for their beaches. Like you had to in advance, but these were like lakes, which I think is a little easier to control And you'd go and reserve like a 2-hour spot at the beach at a lake. And so that was, some ideas that we had talked about too, but it would just have been too difficult for us to throw that together, I think, this past summer. And I don't think that's something that we could actually implement this year. Nor would we want to, hopefully, because I'm hoping we're not going to be under capacity limitations.
So a question for the group. It would be easy to say, do we want to approve the resident budget with increases or have some discussion on that? And then we'll come back to non-resident. But we do need some legal counsel on that. Does this group feel we have time, or, Bruce and Peggy, would you be comfortable if we had a recommendation for non-resident come to you, March 1, April 1?
I think that the budget, we would need this for, Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. Because when we need it all done by the time we actually vote on our recommended budget, right?
Yeah, so this is the revenue side of the equation,
Yeah.
not the spending side. So this is a little bit less time constrained. Really, it is more a function of the planned sell date. When are we going to start selling the passes?
That's right.
Really
Yeah.
the milestone that that this conversation hinges around. And I'm going to throw my 2 cents in, or 1.5 cents. I think we probably do the conversation a service by losing the beach sticker and renaming it parking sticker, because it is a parking pass. It is not a beach access pass.
Yeah.
And I want to agree with Shane. I think you do need to have a conversation around the resident side of it. The non-resident side of it is going to require input again on what are our fences, what are our obligations, and how do we manage it, but not manage ourselves into a pickle. So I think you guys can talk about the resident side of this equation at your leisure, and make a recommendation. And then the non-resident side, Peggy, you're going to have to get Floyd involved and get a better understanding of what we can and can't do.
I think it would be helpful if there's some ideas that your commission has, because I see the problem once again as a time, it's not a pricing, it's more about how we provide access to those residence passes. And so if there are any ideas that you guys come up with about how to tackle this that are new and different, and my thought was, Scott was saying other towns do this, it sounds like, is selling them in advance.
We would have to make sure we take into account, we do have the athletic fields at surf clubs, so we have to, we have teams coming in and the parents. That's always been an exception and a sticking point that always seems to throw a little bit of a curveball in our plans, because we've got to be able to tackle and address that. That can be an exception to the normal process, but.
Well, and I think that, we should be using the software that we have, rather than having the leagues maybe sending out, and this is another conversation about, lists and however they do it, that people have to go online and print out their pass, their sports pass or something, I don't know, but that can be a whole nother conversation, but you're right. I mean, we have to address all that. I think that having a discussion, I'll certainly have another discussion with Floyd about what our options would be. I guess it would be nice to have that conversation though, with having like, what are our top 3, right? What do we think we feel comfortable rolling out that would solve the problem, but also be welcoming and not setting a kind of, negative tone about what we're trying to do, like keeping people out, you know what I mean? So, it'd be nice to think through what would our top 3 options be, and then see if any of those would be, not create any legal jeopardy issues for us. And maybe you guys want to talk about that again at the next meeting. And then I think on the residence fees, I think that, at least, and Bruce, you can weigh in. I think our board was pretty convinced it was time to raise the fees, and so we kind of went with your recommendation last year to not do it because of just the, history of the beach stickers. But what's your comfort level about implementing something this year?
So are we open to
Okay, so
on this?
yeah, let's do this, guys. I'm gonna take an action that I will request of you guys to send over your recommendation for non-resident parking, and then we'll bring those back together to discuss, and that way we can just share them, and if people want to say that was my suggestion or not, we can just have an open discussion. With regard to the fees for residents, that's the question on the table, and the goal tonight was to be able to make a recommendation of the Board of Selectmen. So what we're looking at on the screen here are the recommendations, and we've heard Peggy share on behalf of the Board of Selectmen that they took our recommendation last year not to raise. They are inclined and would support a raise of this year. So the appropriate way to do it would be to make a motion to approve it, see if it was second, have discussion, and then based on the discussion, we either amend these or vote to approve these. Otherwise, I think we could get caught in a discussion. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the director's recommended price increases. If it's a second, we'll go into discussion.
I move to approve this fee schedule and have it go forward to the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we'll move into discussion based on the fees as presented. Is there any discussion for, against, or any
Yeah,
questions?
I have some discussion. So I'm the senior veteran participant in this meeting. I would have liked to have had some other folks come with me and hopefully persuade them to join me on this increase, which is a no vote for me. I think there's 3 basic reasons. I'll bore you, if I may, with 1 minute of conversation, but I think there are 3 reasons that I would vote no on this. I think this.
I'm sorry, Vince, can you just be specific on what you're voting no on?
I'm voting no on any price increase on both the beach parking stickers or the gym passes.
For all categories.
Everyone, yes.
Okay.
Across the board.
Okay.
I think this is the wrong time to do this. I think it's the wrong message we're sending to the Madison residents. I think doubling the price, I mean, a lot of this doesn't make sense. We're doubling the price on our seniors and veterans for the beach passes, and we're tripling the price for the gym use on our young people, which makes no sense to me. Again, this is my own personal comments. That's point 1. My second point is the Madison beachgoers, as Peggy has said, has managed to endure 2 rough seasons of, a difficult rollout in 2019 and a restrictive COVID beach season last year. And we're just coming out of this COVID nightmare, and now we're going to, tell the folks, listen, I know it's been a nightmare, but we're going to increase prices across the board on everything, on every class of beachgoer and people that use the gym. I just think it's the wrong thing to do. I also think that while, many of us enjoy a comfortable quality of life and a good standard of living, there are many in town that are not in that situation. And I think, again, COVID has been devastated to many. This is not a good time to have a price increase on a recreational activity on the beach going public and those folks that use the gym, specifically the young people, the veterans, and your senior citizens. And I would hope that if you were going to vote on this, that we would have a roll call vote, because I know if this passes, I'm going to get a lot of phone calls from the seniors, the young people, and a lot of my family members, especially my grandkids, are going to say, I don't understand what happened. So those are my comments, and I appreciate you giving me the time.
Scott, can you remind
you,
us
Vince.
when the last time these prices were increased, please?
Over 10 years ago, Scott, I think we
More
confirmed.
than 10 years ago, the gym or the beach stickers were raised when Tom Scarpati was first selectman.
Yeah.
And if I'm,
He doubled the boat fees at that time too.
Yeah,
And
but
am
you
I-
can't, if I may, you can't use, because we haven't done it in a while, as a rationale for increasing prices. It just, that doesn't make sense.
Well, but.
We
Vince,
haven't done it in a
I
while,
think-
so we should do it now in the middle of a COVID crisis. We don't even know what June looks like.
I think that the thought, and this was last year's discussion, so I think that you raised some very important points, Vince, because last year the discussion was the pricing, the cost to staff the beaches has almost doubled since 2007. And that's what this pricing dates back to. It was 2007. I'm looking at my slide from that presentation.
Right.
And so that was the discussion about why we thought it was so important to raise the fees. And we are offering a full service, very busy, packed beaches. Everything's been heavily used last summer, and we're probably expecting that for this summer. But I think you also raise, some very important points, is this just going to set people off? Because as it is, they're very sensitive right now, and economic hardship is there for a lot of people. I would argue that the beach passes is one discussion. The gym passes is one, I think, that I struggle more with, because people haven't been able to use the gym. People, you can use your beach during the summer, but people bought gym passes for the year and they didn't even get to use them for half the year.
That was going to be my question
Yeah.
that was going to be my question. The people who bought gym passes last year, were they given refunds?
Yeah, and
They weren't given refunds. Their memberships are going to be extended.
Okay.
So if they were expired, they're going to be pushed.
Thank
So
you.
they're not going to have to buy another one.
So, and so, I guess, I think it's helpful to hear everybody's thoughts on this, because, you can kind of focus on, this is what we talked about last year. Now's the time we got to capture these costs back. It's reality. We raised the fees at the town dump. Okay. And they had not been, I think those fees were 30 years old. We were, they'd never been raised. And we didn't get a lot of pushback because people understood, that the cost increases of managing that facility were huge. And, at least I haven't gotten too many complaints about that, but beach passes is going to be different, obviously. So anyway, I'll let you talk. I'm sorry. I don't mean to dominate it, but I think Vince made some very good points.
So just so I'm clear on the gym passes, because Peggy, I'm with you. I look at the beach passes and just generally I'm okay with it, because the beaches were open, they were available, even at a limited capacity. The gym pass, because the gym was closed. Now, however, if we're saying if you bought a gym pass next year, that's good for this year, then that sort of it negates that argument to some extent. So
I did buy
Anytime you double a price on something, which is what you're doing to the seniors in their first car and their second car, and what you're doing to the veterans, which is even more significant, is you're doubling. It doesn't matter whether it's $1 to $2, you're doubling their price. I think that sends a bad message to those category of folks. And we just got finished talking about the fact that, we're going to have, more activity for the seniors, more emphasis again on the seniors, more programs for the seniors. We're going to double their price. That's all my only point on the.
Well, but Vince, I would argue that the increase that's being applied to the seniors is the exact same increase that's being applied to the adults. There's no difference. I mean, you can look at the percentage, but it's the same dollar amount. And
You're not
they've been
doubling
paying,
it.
and
You're not
they've
doubling
been
that
paying,
price.
no, but they've been paying $30 more per car for the last 14, 15 years.
They don't know that, Shane.
What do you mean? Who's they don't know that?
They're not going to look at that in perspective. They're going to say you doubled my price.
Well, I mean, are we making decisions based on irrational thought that may come back from the
It looks like
constituents,
based
or are we
upon
gonna-
this schedule, we are.
Well, okay, so also being a senior here, when I was paying my fees, I thought they were ridiculously low, to be quite honest. I think looking at just the beach stickers first, or just the beach parking stickers, for the first adult car to go up to $50, I'm fine with that. To make a $10 increase, I sort of liked last year the fact that the second through fourth car is half of that. So I guess I would personally suggest making the second through fourth car $25 instead, which might take a little bit of the sting out of the increases. And the same thing with the senior rate. I'm happy to pay $20 for my first car, but maybe make the second through fourth car $10 for a senior. I don't know how many seniors have multiple, well, in our family, we do. And then the veteran, if you think that's an issue, Vince, I would consider maybe raising that only $5 and making that 15. But I don't, but if the goal is to meet I don't know how that balances out with our added expenses for the beach, for maintaining beach personnel and staffing and services. But that would be my suggestion.
I don't mean to hog the conversation, but my only comment is, again, that we're doubling the price on veterans and we're doubling the price on seniors on the beach pass program. We're also tripling the price on a gym pass for a young person who wants to play basketball like my grandkids want to at the end of the day. So they have to pay 15. I mean, it's not necessarily them, but you're tripling their price to play in the gym. I just think it doesn't look good. You know, this is not. And my other question is, what does all this mean financially? Are we going from, one point in 2018, quote, the last, normal year, we had the last normal year when we had, before COVID and before we did the new pass system, we had 8,000 passes were sold and we made close to $180,000. So my question is, why are we doing this? Why don't we try to get back to where we were normal and make the kind of money we were making before and give the beachgoer, we are giving the beachgoer a better product now. Let's see what happens in normal times. We might make our numbers in terms of what we have to make as a beach pass system and a gym pass system.
Would you mind if I just share the past chart, the chart that I have from the presentation last year? Because I just thought, I think it's just very helpful, to really put this in perspective. So I'll just real quickly share this, and hopefully I can get this pulled up quickly. Where is it? Okay. All right, here we go. Hopefully it'll let me do this. And I'm sorry, it's not, I have two screens going and this is really screwing this up. Why isn't it showing this as an option? Hold on a second.
While Peggy is working on that, I want to bring up one other thing I just thought of, is that another pass that seniors have been very interested in the past has been the guest day pass, which we don't have on this list.
Here we go. Sorry about that. Nothing is easy for me these days. So this is what we showed at the, I just found this, and this is where I think, the impact this is a huge revenue impact, and not huge, nothing's really huge, right? And our goal is not to like cover all our costs or anything like that. We recognize that. But if you look at the fact that, 3,000, half of all our pass sales, okay, in terms of resident pass sales, are to the senior category. I mean, and we're charging them a quarter of what we charge a typical pass. So I'm right or wrong, we're kind of, in this box now, right? Where we really have set ourselves up to not really generate as much revenue as we could be generating off of this just by the nature of this. So
Peggy, my question or my point is this is a great chart, and it makes my point. In 2018, which is before
right.
the beach pass system, et cetera, and the COVID, we had $160,000 of sales, and we put 8,000 beach passes sold. What does this new proposal in terms of price increase yield for us? We haven't had 8,000 passes sold in the past 3 years, or the past 2 years, 2019, 2020 seasons.
Well, we had like 6,000, didn't we? And we just couldn't have resident because we didn't allow residents on non-residents, right?
But can you imagine what I'm saying is if we got back to the 8,000 and we had $160,000 in revenue, would that do the same thing that this is doing?
So Vince, let me ask you a question just generally. Are you just, it sounds like you're broadly against any price increase. So
no, I'm not, Shane. This is the time to do it.
What's that?
I just don't think that this is the time to do it. I think we're just crawling out of hopefully, by June or July, in the middle of our beach season, in the middle of our season, we'll be crawling out of all of this. We don't know. And yet we're making decisions on things that we don't know the impact and what our consumer, which is the Madison resident, is going to think.
If we were to
have a price increase.
Vince, if we were to commit today to delaying this price increase as presented until next year's beach season, would you be amenable to that as presented in theory?
I would like to see how we do. I would like to see how we do this season. I would like to see where we are in June.
But so Vince, but I guess that's my point is, so even if we go back to 2018 with 8,000, where our costs for the last 13 years have not stayed the same. And they went up significantly last year because of now some of that because of the coverage that we needed from a coverage perspective. So at some point we need to apply and cover that. Otherwise, I mean, it's just ultimately it's going back to our ratepayers are paying for it either way, ultimately.
And it's not even to cover it, it's to acknowledge the fact that providing additional services costs additional money. And, as a community, we all have to share the burden to what extent we can, I guess. So I don't know, in terms of your finger on the pulse of the senior community, Vince, if you've got this year in which, okay, we're recovering from COVID impacts, and the seniors, by virtue of the merging of the two departments, gets more access to programs and stuff, would you be willing to commit now to voting to cover the increased costs of increased services by raising the rates as presented next year?
I don't know how to answer that.
I mean, because we're talking about providing increased services, right?
Well, we haven't done that yet, MP. We don't know.
Well, but we're talking about it. So this could be actually a really good year for seniors, right? So
it could be.
would it not be reasonable to ask for an increase in costs for increased services provided?
Why don't we suggest this, that we do this at the, at the meeting in September and see what happened and see what happens to the, to this COVID thing in June and July. I mean, why don't we come out of the woods before we start, figuring out, where we're going? I mean, we don't know.
Well, I think that, I think that your concern is more just the economic hardship, right? And the burden on the community. The reality is that we had more people use our beaches this summer. We did.
Yeah.
And whether or not we sold more passes, we sold, I think, as much resident passes or more. And I think actually there were more going to families. I don't know if Scott has that breakdown, but if I recall in conversations with him, this is from 2018, but I think the percentage of seniors was reduced, right? Because more people stayed in town this summer and decided to use the beaches. So they were used more than they've ever been used before. And I think this next summer is going to be the same case, or it might look like 2018, but it's not going to be super low. So the usage is going to be there no matter what. And I think we just have to understand that we're going to have the staffing there. We're going to have to spend the money, and we're going to have a very busy beach season no matter what. So the question is, do we try to recoup, some of those incremental costs that we've borne over the last few years in fees? And, I hear you. It is, it's a tough call. And as somebody, because guess who's going to get blamed? You guys will probably not get blamed at all. It's going to be me. So, and the Board of Selectmen.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I know. And I agree. It is a tough thing because, it's just another thing you're going to throw on people. Oh, now you're raising my, beach pass
Right.
After all this. And, but that's kind of the logic we used last year too, though, right? Well, after last year, you're raising my beach pass. And that's why we decided not to raise it. So, I think there has to be some sort of, commitment that we're going to have to raise these. And I think to, MP's point is maybe we need to start signaling that to the community, even if we're not going to do it this year. Maybe there's some sort of, voted recommendation that it is going to happen. And we just say, you got to plan on it.
Didn't we do that last year?
2021.
Didn't we do that last year? I
Yeah,
thought
last year
I thought we made that.
we said we weren't
statement
going
last
to
year.
take the price.
Yeah,
increase.
but I think
we
it
did
was
not
more
to take one.
internally and not publicly. I think
Oh,
Peggy's
okay. I thought
suggesting
we
making it public.
I thought we had actually said that we were trying to, at some point, I thought we had communicated that. we
Yeah, it may
decided-
be in the minutes. I think it was something that was carried to the Board of Selectmen, but yeah, nothing that we communicated with the public.
I think if I had, I might have touched on it in this presentation that no one came to. This is right when COVID was starting, I think, or something.
So Peggy, just a question.
This is what I did say: reviewing pricing strategy for future
Mhm.
seasons.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't think we got any firmer than that outside of the commission.
So Peggy, what would you think of that idea of yet again postponing it another year, but doing a real public information push to make sure that people could be prepared for it in the following season? Or do you think it's more important to do something right away?
I'm not sure. I think this is something that the board would probably want to talk about. Once again, my head says we need to start, doing this, but I think that I also have to be appreciative of what Vince's comments and there's just a lot of people, their world has been rocked and there's just, people obviously not just, even if they haven't had a huge economic hardship to them, there are people who lost their jobs and struggling. It's just everybody's had a horrible year, right?
Right.
And so it isn't the best time. And can the town afford not to raise? Yes. We don't need to. It's going to show up in the taxes anyways, right? You're going to be paying for the cost of the services one way or the other. You know, I would be supportive, I think, if we really made a strong messaging attempt this year to say, no, it is going to go up for the summer of 2021. And that the commission is going to, you know, next fall commit to doing so and coming up with what they think the right numbers are.
Mhm.
We can put
Yeah,
that
so
out in our Buy Your Beach Pass this year information. So people can't say that it, you know, took them by surprise, although I'm sure that there will still be some people that will feel that way. But it also goes along with our, you know, the thing that we've been talking about, how we have to assume this coming beach season is going to start the way the previous one ended.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And I think that, you know, this will be obviously, I don't know if Bruce is still on, but a discussion that will be, the Board of Selectmen will need to have. And so maybe, you know, with your recommendation going to the board, it gives us the opportunity, we can put it as an agenda item and talk about it. And just so it's in the public dialogue.
Can I ask
So
a
we can,
question of
yeah,
Vince?
go ahead, Pam.
So Vince, is there any incremental increase that you would feel comfortable with this year? Or do you just feel that an increase is just out of the question?
You know,
Or Vince, may I add
Sure.
to that? You know, do we say that there'll be a price increase of X for 2022 and we're going to take half of that now so that it's spread out? So it's not a $10 increase to seniors, it's $5, and then next year it's another $5. For everyone across all roles.
I tend to think that sequential increases is harder for people to deal with psychologically than a one-time increase, but that's just my personal sense of it.
so maybe if we, fair enough, then maybe if we just said that seniors on the Beach Pass sticker program now, or beach parking, per Shane's request, is we take the senior first card from $10 to $15, and we take the second to fourth card,
Yeah.
$10.
So guys,
Are we
I think
negotiating
we're getting into
over
the
the,
weeds.
are we negotiating
think-
over the 2022 increase?
We're
'Cause I
gonna
think
get
we
into
should all
the
agree-
weeds.
I mean, is that what we're doing right now, is talking about what we're going to commit to for next year?
Well, I think we're getting into the weed. I think that you're right, Shane. There's a negotiation. I think we need to understand it. Vince has brought up some great points. I think, I don't know that we're going to resolve this tonight. It's 9:20. I'm not sure where the time went. Last time I checked, it was 9. So, I mean, it's good discussion. The question is, do we feel we can make a recommendation tonight, or do we need to table this and address this next month?
Well, I think we need to vote on the, right, either amend or vote on the,
Can I amend the motion then? To
Or
see
can-
where this one falls? Let me amend the motion to say, I move to approve the price increases as presented, but implemented for the 2022 summer season rather than the 2021.
I'm just going to jump in. I don't think you guys really have a mechanism for committing your board as constituted or a future commission to something like this.
We can only
I
recommend.
think you can
Yeah, right.
feel your intention.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. This is our recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Yeah, I apologize for being unclear. Yeah. That's correct.
MP on both the beach parking stickers and the gym pass
Yeah,
program.
everything as presented. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
My just quick thought, just to say, is what, rather than doing this, why don't you just withdraw your previous motion and then table this for your next meeting? You know,
Okay. Yeah,
Good
no, I was just
suggestion.
taking a chance
Yeah.
on that one.
just because
Yeah.
I know it's, you know, a lot to think about and talk about. And to Bruce's point earlier, there's no urgency per se because of the budget or anything. You can raise this in February.
Or would it make more sense to have a special meeting just to focus on this? I don't know what other business will be on the February meeting, but
We
Good
have
point,
to,
Pam. Plus, there's that non-resident.
right, we do have to, there is kind of a time critical because we have to get, when we're putting out the information for the passes
Yeah,
to go online, like, we have to have it buckled down and approved by the Board of Selectmen before we even advertise, and we want to go. Our target for beach stickers or parking stickers is April 1st, because we have boat racks March 1st.
But I think this is voted on in February. By March 1st, you'll be ready to roll. Right? If they resolved all this in February and it came to the Board of Selectmen the end of February, because
Mhm.
We could do that. Shane, did you have a comment?
No, I was just gonna say that if we're all, if we've all moved to the point where we're agreeing that increases in 2021 don't make sense, and we're really talking about what we are recommending, we would be recommending to the board for 2022, then we could break this up really into two separate recommendations, and which one we could either vote on in February or we could do now, which is we're not recommending any price increase for 2021. And then we can have in February, we can have the discussion around, do we then want to make a recommendation that the fees as presented should be considered and communicated to the public in preparation for the 2022 beach season, as MP had stated.
So I guess the question is, do we want to withdraw that motion? And does someone want to, Shane, do you want to say, make a motion to make a recommendation for no price increases?
Peggy or Bruce, do you guys have any preference on how we do this in terms of the recommendations coming to you? And
my thought is you just do this in February because
Okay.
It'll give everybody a chance to think more. I haven't really polled my board about their views on this either, and I would hate to have this be I'd rather be able to come back and share with you, some other thoughts, and Bruce hasn't weighed in yet, but I think the other piece is the resident discussion, the non-resident discussion too. So you wouldn't, if you were going to recommend no fee increases, I think I would only make that for resident right now. And then we'll talk about strategies around non-resident in February also.
yeah, this motion only included residents because we did not present non-residents on this structure.
this structure does not include the resident guest pass.
Correct.
You can do either table it or withdraw it and pick it up later.
Yeah, let's table it until next time then. I'm fine with that.
so do we just need to, who made the motion? Do we just need to withdraw the motion then? Or is it just table?
MP.
Yeah, I think I'd rather table it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pick up where we left off. Do we need to vote to
Okay.
table it?
I think you need to make a motion to table and then.
All right, so I move to table the motion as stands until next meeting.
And
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye. It approves. So this will be under old business for our next meeting. The question is, just real quickly, and then we'll have comments. Do we feel we want to have a special meeting, or would you like to use this for our February meeting and make this the bulk of our discussion?
Well, I know for a
For
fact
price.
that I have to work the evening of our February meeting, so I won't be there.
So Scott and I will poll you guys on email and on dates to see if you're available for a special meeting just to discuss the cost structure and see if we can accommodate everyone. That way it's a dedicated discussion on that. With that said, there's no other items on the agenda. I don't think we had any public guests. Any closing
let's
comments?
do the
Otherwise,
minutes. Let's do the minutes.
Oh, thanks, MP.
I haven't had a chance to read them. I don't know how long they are, but
They're quite brief, actually.
let me check my email then.
But if you want to pick it, if we're doing a special, we can put it on the
Yeah,
special.
let's just put it on the next agenda.
All right.
Okay. Scott, I've made some notes. I'll follow up with you and we can chat about some follow-up items. Any other closing comments?
Nope.
Oh, I have one comment.
Well, thank you all for joining, staying long.
Well-
Okay, Pam, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I just wanted to thank Peggy for the amazing job you did over the summer and dealing with such a fluid situation. And, you know, I felt like it was a very difficult time. And I know that you had to make a lot of decisions on the fly. And I just appreciate the work that you did to make the beach season as successful as it was.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry I hijacked your meeting tonight too, so.
No, this was
Don't
very
invite me
helpful.
again.
It was helpful. Thank
Glad to
you.
have you.
It's
Thank you.
insightful. It's very helpful. Thank you all for your
Thank you.
time and your participation. At this point, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone. Happy New Year. Stay healthy and
Right,
safe.
yep,
Thanks
Happy New
again.
Year.
Right.
Good night. Thank you.